Hey, everybody. How you doing? And I want to open this show. Sending my condolences to Vinny Lospinuso, our colleague's friend, uh, Joseph, and Joseph Michael Kelly, and who passed away. Vinny is at his wake. Um, so a reunion of friends. So Vinny, you're always in our thoughts. And Bill, how you doing?
Good to see you. We are, brought back here together to talk about this game that, for me, has been a near obsession, maybe beyond just near, since I was probably 4 or so years old. So this will be when this season rolls around, will be my 52nd season of watching NFL football.
Yeah, and a new development in that. And I'll just tell you, I spent a micro part of my day watching the 1975 Dallas Cowboys host the Washington Redskins. And it's funny to look at a game you can find all these games on YouTube. It's really cool.
Yes.
And then you see what I saw, and I would love to do a video with you about it, just to point out the changes, because there was one pass play among a few, not as many as today, but with Bill Kilmer as the quarterback, and the leg whipping, chop blocking,
Oh,
all in one play. Okay, this is like they might as well be. I mean, what's next? Biting?
it was a very different game. You saw wide receivers in 3-point stances a lot of times. I mean, it was a very different game, my friend.
Yeah.
Quick little fun fact about Billy Kilmer: he's the last, the final, my way to put it, NFL quarterback who played single wing to start in an NFL game. Who played in single wing in college was Billy Kilmer. He started when he first came to UCLA. They were still running single wing, believe it or not.
And that was what year?
Oh God, 60 something. They were still running single wing. They were one of the last big schools to run single wing. They were still doing it. I guess he got there probably early 60s. I think he was in the 64 draft or 65 draft, so probably 1960 maybe. But they were the last.
One way to find out here, real quick. I'll give you the answer on Bill Kilmer. Bill Kilmer.
Right. I believe he was drafted by the Saints, if memory serves, and he was a backup. He started some, but mostly he was behind people like, Archie Manning.
Okay, Bill Kilmer, football player. It was let's see here. He was with the Redskins until 78. He was born in 1939.
Yeah. So he would have been drafted probably about 61 or 62, maybe.
He's 83 years old. He joined the Bruins in 1958.
Okay. Yeah. So when he got there in 58, they were still running single wing.
Wow.
I think they switched over while he was there, but his first couple of years there, they were running single wing.
And was born in Topeka, Kansas.
Yep.
And then he went to start the 49ers. He was the 11th selection.
That's right.
In the 1961 NFL draft.
And he was buried on the depth chart there. That's right. Right. Yep.
Yeah. And he was taken, 11th section. He was also selected in the 5th round of the 61 AFL draft by the Chargers.
Yep. Right.
Signed with the Niners, December 30th.
Probably should have signed with the Chargers. They had a much more interesting offense at the time. But yes, right.
Maybe it's a matter of certainty. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, part of it probably was, people were more familiar with the NFL. But, if he'd gone to Sid Gilman in those days, I mean, he would have been a nice battle with John Hadle, fellow Kansas native, right? He and the two, they might have met even in high school, I wonder.
Yeah, this is the guy that we're talking about for the moment, folks. I had to change my pan a little bit just to reflect. That's the page about him. And this is him, Bill Kilmer. All right.
Yep.
Billy. Excuse me. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Billy Kilmer, or as George Allen used to say, "Hey, Billy, come here, Billy, come here." Say Billy.
Yeah.
So we go from Bill Kilmer to a transition where we are going to talk about an interesting bit of news I saw on the NFL website. And I had to go in and dig and get the press release, although it's publicly available. Although we still have our credentials, folks. But anyway, and we have so many weird things going on, man. You know what's going on, right, Bill?
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
a funny world, my friend. It's a funny world.
You can tell me about it. NFL extends strategic partnership with Genius Sports, exclusive NFL data, and watch and bet distribution partner.
Right.
And then it reads, it goes on to read, exclusive long-term strategic partnership now continues through the end of the 2027-2028 NFL season. Genius Sports, it's a heck of a name, to remain the exclusive distributor of the NFL's official live game data and next-gen stats feeds to global media and betting markets.
Yeah.
Extended agreement also includes exclusive right to distribute digital advertising inventory and marks and logos to global sports books. Wow. And NFL low latency watch and bet live game video feeds to international sports books, as well as integrity monitoring services for all NFL games. Then it goes on to explain some detail. My thought about this is, first of all, how much money do they pay for this partnership? And not only that, this partnership, Bill, as I said to you off camera, it really reflects the degree to which data is important. It's at the heart of sports gambling because you're betting on touchdowns, yards, all these numbers that the NFL really produces. They say, look, we have the right to that. And they've proven that they do. But so I think, folks, you're seeing a lot, or you're going to see a lot of team moves, my prediction, not getting this for anybody else, because these franchises are becoming more and more monetized in different areas, more commodified.
Yeah.
And if your team is not in a stadium that has the right deal where, it can make money from its stadium and it gets the majority of the dough that it produces and all that great stuff, guess what? Your team's going to be out of there. Out of there. They're going to sign a long-term, I don't care if it's a long-term lease. They're going to be out of there. But see, that's how I think about it. Mr. Carroll has a different view. Bill?
Well, what we're saying, and of course the old saying about this kind of thing is when you lie down with dogs, you often get up with fleas. The NFL has had an outbreak, a little outbreak, contained outbreak thus far, of players getting caught gambling. And, like I said, we talked about, Mr. Ripley, Ridley, but the talented Mr. Ridley, as I call him, has now lost a significant portion of what should be the peak of his career already to this. And now we've seen Isaiah Rodgers, Rashad Berry, and Demetrius Taylor, two members of the Colts and one free agent, have all been suspended indefinitely through at least the 2023 season for betting on games in 2022. So while at the same time the NFL has an official sports book, an official casino, an official betting app, an official, it's a data provider, an official everything that you could think of to squeeze that extra little betting related dollar out of it, while at the same time players are getting whacked. And so it's an interesting dichotomy to see how long they can lean further and further into the world of sports betting without it beginning to have a greater effect. And thus far, haven't lost a superstar. Now, Mr. Ridley was a budding star, a player who had initially been sort of in the shadow of Julio Jones and then was starting to emerge from that shadow right when this happened. So we don't know what the long-term effect in his career will be, but it definitely cost him a lot of money. That much I can tell you. In addition to opportunities to, develop as a player and, of course, maneuver around for that next big contract once his rookie deal was up. So we're going to see, they've talked about this since forever. The two biggest stars to lose legitimate time due to gambling was actually back, many years ago when Paul Hornung and Alex Karras, both of whom are now in the Hall of Fame, lost time due to gambling. And of course, Karras got hit harder, ironically, even though I think he actually gambled a smaller amount, because Horning sort of threw himself on the mercy of the court, begged for forgiveness, blah, blah, blah. Well, Alex Karras was like, are you kidding me? I bet a couple of bucks with my friends. It wasn't even on football. But at that time, they had zero tolerance, right? It was zero tolerance in those games.
Yeah.
Zero. So if you were heard to be, even if you were just heard to hang around gamblers, in fact, you would be in trouble. As you might remember very famously, they tried to get Joe Namath to sell his club, Players 2, I think it was called Players something.
It was
because
Players Inc.
Players something, I get, but whatever it was called, they tried to get him to sell it because one of the people who was another owner was a guy who involved in gambling. So, so the any association at all with gamblers and gambling used to be strictly verboten at one point. And Alvin Pete Rozelle was foursquare against anything that even smelled like gambling. And like I mentioned earlier, that's one of the reasons why he was so much against even fantasy football early on, even though there was no money involved.
Bachelors 2.
Bachelors. There's something too. Bachelors 2. Right. Well, one of the co-owners was a guy that was involved in gambling. So there's been this long, extreme distrust of anyone any way associated with the gaming industry, right? Even if it was legal, they were very much against you being associated. If you were seen at the track, there'd be what are you doing at the track? I mean, there was a lot even. And so Bill Parcells got heavily involved with it towards the end of his career. Once he was no longer a coach, he was now in a front office role. He started, owning these part-owning horses and things like that. And this is obviously long after the Rozelle era, but if that had been back in 1950-something, Pete Rozelle would have called him in the office and be like, what are you doing? You're hanging around these guys, So the game has changed, is what you're pointing out, Zennie. The game has changed.
Yeah, I'm looking at a press release here that was put out February 7th of this year. NFL sports betting revenue skyrocketed 40% in 2022, Bill.
Yes.
And it reads, Russell Wilson and Austin Eckler were social media's most endorsed athletes. And Sponsor United, it reports itself to be the leading global sports and entertainment intelligence platform, tracking 11 million sponsorships and endorsements across 250,000 brands and properties. Today released its NFL 2022 marketing partnership report, which revealed team sponsorship revenues increased 14% per year over year, setting a new league record. And Bob Lynch, the founder of the organization, says, rather than relying on a handful of household brands to grow revenue, NFL teams are driving exponential growth by diversifying their brand partners. Ticketing, insurance, and healthcare were the leading brand categories in terms of revenue growth this season. The NFL's sponsor portfolio isn't slowing down anytime soon, as emergent categories like sports betting and wine and spirits are expected to increase their spend in the years ahead. Then it goes on to report sports betting's explosive growth unlocks new revenue opportunities, and it says that more than 25 teams now have at least one sports betting or daily fantasy sports sponsor. Last year, the Bills announced a multi-year partnership with FanDuel as their official mobile sports betting partner. And other notable brand sponsors include BetMGM, Bally's, Betfred, and Bet365. And so that underscores just how large a place we're at. I read that it was estimated back in 2020, that across all sports, gambling contributes on a per league basis $4.2 billion. $4.2 billion across all sports. Either way, it's a lot of money. It's even greater if it's per sport, but 4.2 billion is a lot just starting out. And no, that's not static, Bill. That's growing.
Right.
And it'll continue to grow as more states legalize gambling. the big reason why sports teams are rushing out of California, and I predict the Warriors are heading to Las Vegas in a few years, it's my prediction, is because gambling is not legal. Sports gambling is not legal in California.
Right.
And you cannot maintain a healthy franchise with that state of affairs. Something's got to give. What do you think, Bill?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. I don't know if California is going to budge on this. What I think may end up happening is they may end up, people will find workarounds, right? I mean, I think that we've seen people figure out ways around it. There are Californians betting all day, every day, as you already know, Zennie. You probably know some who are betting right now as we speak, legal or not. So California is looking at revenue that other states, sometimes states very close to them, are receiving. Whether or not they ever fully get on board with legalizing sports betting, I do believe you will see some form of associating, even if they're out-of-state sports books, allowing them maybe a certain amount of access to Californians, and letting them wet their beak, letting them get a little piece of the action.
Where'd you get that term from, Bill?
Oh, let me wet my beak. Well, it's funny. Once again, now we're talking about the what people used to call sin tax, right? When you tax things like cigarettes, gambling, whatever, the alcohol, the sin taxes. And of course, interesting enough, in April of 1963, when the suspensions were handed down against Paul Hornung and Alex Karras, the cover of Sports Illustrated said "The Wages of Sin." It had a big old picture of Alex Karras on it. So, as I said, things have clearly changed. And you have to think about what this was like in 1963. Those are two of the biggest stars in the league at the time. Paul Hornung had been a Heisman Trophy winner, and the last Heisman Trophy winner, probably the last we'll ever see, from a team with a losing record. He won the Heisman Trophy in a year when his team went 2-8. We'll never see somebody from a 2-8 team even come close. And then Alex Karras, of course, like I said, was on his way to eventually a Hall of Fame career as well. It's just fascinating to me that now, not that there's, still a ticklish little line to be walked, but more and more states are getting on board with it. California might be one of the last to eventually get on board with it. And then maybe some of the states but funny, I was going to say some of the states in the Deep South that are fairly conservative, but Mississippi is a very conservative southern state. They've gotten on board with it. So I think we're going to see eventually, it might take a while. Eventually, I think all 50 states will have some form of legalized sports betting, but it may take California a while.
Now, as you're saying this, I'm actually trying to find a place. I had a conversation on video here on Zennie 62 with Oakland, Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley, and I brought up the issue of sports gambling, and he shook his head in opposing to it. He's opposed to it. So this gets into what you're talking about not anytime soon, because as long as you have elected officials who think, hey, this is not something that I think is something that I want to be involved in. I want my region involved in. Okay. For betting reasons. They think of it in terms of gambling and alcohol and addiction. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They run lots of things saying addiction problem, call such and such. But I mean, once again, you are literally speaking out of, as you say, both sides of your mouth, because frankly, you said 40%. I won't be surprised if they are 40% again. I mean, their ability to keep growing this year over year is going to keep going up. And as you mentioned, as we grow interest in this sport outside of U.S. boundaries, you're going to see Bahrain sports books with, the lines on NFL games. You're going to see, already it's in British pubs or whatever. You're going to see it, in Germany and France. You're going to see it in, the Philippines. So while basketball has a bit of a head start because it's more of an international sport already. Football is looking at the opportunity to be everywhere, even if they don't have franchises there. They want to have a presence everywhere in the Far East, in Central and South America, in all throughout Europe, Australia. I mean, they want to be everywhere. And one of the ways that you can make people more passionate or more involved, money, right? If their money is on the line, I mean, one of the jokes is, why am I watching this game? Because I have to, I want to see if my kids are going to get their teeth fixed or not, right? So when you bet grandma's insulin money on a game, you're going to watch to see how the game turns out.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Don't you think that the NFL should be more involved in educating both players and fans regarding the dangers of gambling, since it's all in on it?
Well, I mean, they do have obviously the rookie symposium, and they talk about it. I know.
No, let's talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up. Tell my viewers about the.
Oh, they go. So as you probably already know, every year there's a new crop of players brought in. At the rookie symposium, you talk about everything from preparing for your career after football, financial planning, taking care of your body, watching out for scams, watching out for people who, how do I put this, will take advantage of you in other ways, and this, avoiding. So even though they are moving closer and closer, you said, to being very much in bed with gambling, they still tell the players, don't get too close to gamblers, right? Or people who are so it's this very strange thing where the NFL, is so embracing of sports betting, and yet they're telling players, don't bet on games, don't associate with people who are too close to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So can you do a commercial for FanDuel? Sure, go ahead. Can you do a commercial for, Barstool or whoever else has got a sports book? Sure, kill it, go crazy. Can you talk about somebody's gambling app? Sure, whatever. Can you invest in it? Maybe. But that's a bit of a gray area. I'll be interested to see what happens with that, right? When someone like Austin Eckler says, I want to fund this startup, whatever, we'll see what happens when that happens. But they've been very clear.
As I listen to you, how about remember the bounty situation that got Greg Williams in trouble? Isn't that a form of gambling?
Well, I mean, because it's not of chance, right? That's the difference. Okay. So by legal definition, gambling is dependent upon at least the appearance of chance, right? That this is something where there's a certain amount of possibility that there's multiple different outcomes. You're betting on one of those different outcomes, or you're wagering on one of those different outcomes. A bounty is saying, here's what I want the outcome to be, and here's what you get when this outcome happens. He's not saying, I'm going to give you X amount if this player doesn't get hurt, but this amount if this player does get hurt, or you lose this amount if this player doesn't get hurt. No, it's go hurt this player, and I give you this amount. So that's a little different from actual gambling. Okay. Now, in the way actual gambling or whatever games of chance work, and it's funny because video poker, but even somebody tried to get those claw game machines, the claw game where you see it even in supermarkets. Somebody somewhere tried to get that ruled as a game of chance, and they said no, it's a game of skill, right? So technically speaking, you can do things that look a lot like gambling, but if they're considered a game of skill as opposed to a game of chance, they may not fall under gambling regulations. So that's why you can do the claw game even in states where gambling is not legal, and in places where they don't have any sort of gaming license, like your local Piggly Wiggly or Winn-Dixie or Albertsons or Kroger or wherever it is you live, where we have a big grocery store and they have those things where your kids go and throw your change in there. Those are considered games of skill. So that is technically speaking not regulated by the same regulation. So as it stands, the NFL wants to have its cake, wants to grow its cake, wants to make more cakes, wants to sell cakes, but also eat the cake. And when you want to do all those things, at some point, someone will get their fingers stuck in the cake. And as I mentioned, that happened to a couple members of the cult. And as much as they talk about it, it's going to happen to some other player too. Either a player doesn't fully understand the rule or think it doesn't apply to them or whatever it is. Calvin Ridley, of course, at the time it happened to him, was on injured reserve. And I think he thought that for some reason that gave him some sort of exemption. And he was made to understand that, no, sir, no, that's the fact that you're not able to play doesn't change anything. The rule is the rule is the rule, which I guess he found out the hard way. But the NFL is going to continue to have issues with this because as this grows, and more money is made, players are going to say, well, how can I get, other than just doing endorsements, how else can I get involved? And they're going to say you can't. And they're going to say, well, what if I'm just a silent investor? What if I'm just this? What if I don't have anything to do with the day-to-day running of it? I'm just paying someone to develop an app, right? If it were an app to do anything else, you'd be fine with it. I'm not going to be involved in day-to-day operations. I'm not going to set the line. I'm not going to give them any information about my team. I'm just invested. So I'm fascinated. To see what happens if a player tries this. It says, hey, because it's not gambling, right? You're just paying a group of people to develop an app that people may use for gambling or use to aggregate information even to be used for gambling.
Right.
As long as you're not giving the information, does that not violate? Well, like I said, I'm fascinated. I want to see a test case. And I keep bringing up Austin Eckler because he's a forward-thinking guy. But it might be someone else.
Now I got to ask you now. Okay, let's turn to in the waning moments. Let's turn to the conversation of actually my favorite conversation of late, other than gambling issue. NFL rookie quarterbacks, to which we have Anthony Richardson,
right?
This is starters. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Jake Haener,
yep.
Tanner McKee. I'll explain why I was pausing in a second.
Right.
It says starters. I'm thinking
those are not all starters. They may have put the word starters up there, but they're not all starters.
Yeah.
Richardson may eventually start. He may even be the day one starter. Bryce Young is almost certain to be the day one starter. I'll be shocked if he isn't. And then C.J. Stroud is probably not going to start immediately. I think that'll probably, at least for a little while, they'll hang with Davis Mills. But at some point, I think he becomes a starter. The rest of those guys are going to be backups. For Jake Haener to start, something very serious would have to happen. They are not planning to start him, at least. I mean, they just spent a lot of money on
Derek Carr.
So, yeah.
Winston.
Right. Yeah, some things would have to happen, like I said.
Hold the clipboard, boy.
Yeah, Tanner McKee is probably third or so on the depth chart. Stetson Bennett is maybe third or fourth, maybe on the depth. I don't know where he is on the depth chart. Hendon Hooker is probably third on the depth chart. Will Levis is second on the depth chart. And Levis will play some at some point, I believe. But for the moment, he is not the starter. He's not the projected starter.
So the question here is, does Will Levis lose the set number 2 to Malik Willis?
I think that Will Levis is the person they want to be their number 2 quarterback and eventually their starter. So if it's even close between the two, they're going to go with Levis, right? They've invested more in Levis than they have in Willis. And they like them both. And I think the ideal situation for them would be to eventually be able to flip Malik for draft capital. That's what I think their ideal outcome would be, because they like him enough to display him, to put him on display during preseason, and to make sure he plays a little bit even during the regular season. But I don't think they want him to be. They wouldn't have drafted Will Levis if they really thought he was going to be the long-term answer, right? That you don't draft another. These are 2 quarterbacks who are a few months apart in age. You don't draft 2 guys who are almost share a birth year if you truly believe in one of them, right? So something tells you that one of these guys isn't going to be the guy, but you're hoping that he'll show enough that somebody else will take him off your hands.
I gotta tell you, man, I'm really object to this whole jazz of you basically quarterback as a proxy for coaching. I'll get a quarterback and I'll fix all my problems, which is like the mob rule idea. Because coaching fixes problems.
Sure.
Why is it this is going on? What is it that's causing this? I think stupid rush toward these anointment of quarterbacks early. That he's gonna do it. He's gonna save us, and then I'm like, no. What's going on, man?
Well, it's a combination of things. So yeah, so when you have two quarterbacks, like I said, on your roster, born in 1999, so yeah, they're almost the same age. It means that, like I said, you want one of them to distance themselves. But the reason that people think that quarterbacks are a panacea is because they look at what a guy like Patrick Mahomes or any of the top quarterbacks, Joe Burrow. I mean, name anybody who's one of the top, Josh Allen, and they say, "Oh, if we only had that guy," but that guy doesn't become that guy if he's not well coached. That's what they seem to.
Mahomes sat on the bench for 3 years.
Right. I mean, Mahomes sat for all but one game of his rookie season behind Alex Smith. Josh Allen started fairly early on in his career and was bad initially, as you might remember.
I'd say Mahomes sat on for two years. His first year and his second.
Yeah, so he played part of his first year and looked terrible. Played all of his second year and looked up and down, and then his third year began to put it all together. But once again, he was extremely well coached, and Brian Daboll really knows what he's doing in developing young quarterbacks.
You got to admit, though, they developed a whole read option system around him.
Well, they developed a lot of things around him. Also brought in a huge amount of talent around him, too. They built a very good team around him.
But I mean, if I may, when I say built a whole read option, I don't mean just the standard read option.
Mm-hmm.
They have packages where if a linebacker lines up close in and down, then Mahomes is instructed to throw this way, throw toward the slot side of the formation. Right. But if he's back,
that's what the leverage is telling him.
He hands off, right? And my point is, and that's not standard read option. That's actually, it's an option, but it's not where he has to run, right?
Right.
So my point is, they've done this great job of taking an idea that in a lot of football clubs, like say Montana State at the college level, all their runs are read option, but they're runs,
right?
Passes. So my point is, they developed this whole system around him, and it gets to my point. Mahomes is almost the exception that proves the rule because they designed a system around him.
Sure.
Whereas no one's designing a system around Levis. They could have done it with Malik. I would have, but they didn't do it. They could have stolen it, right? Anyway, here.
And Jalen Hurts has also benefited from some things they've done around him as well.
Thank you.
So here's what I will say.
Yeah.
It's like the old saying about, well, is it easier, to fix everything about a house or put a really snazzy paint job on it before you sell it, right? So there's lots of things you can do that can be done quickly and easily and raise the value of an item. But if you want to really fix it, that's harder, slower, and doesn't always dazzle the eye the same way. The fact is that not everyone is a tremendous offensive innovator in the NFL, Zennie, right? Believe it or not everybody is Andy Reid. Not everybody is. So there's certain people who are, Shane Steichen is another guy that's gotten a lot of attention and deservedly so, I believe, recently. There are some very good young coaches in the NFL right now.
But to put it in the words of the late, great, famous Thurston Howell III, there's thievery and stealing, and I'll pay for it, my boy. I'll pay for it. So I'm saying you can steal the ideas.
Of course.
I mean, you can buy somebody. So it's not like, yeah, I agree with you that there's not everybody out there is like that, but then because for some teams it seems like, and we talked about this with offensive quarterback, not coaches, but the research guys, right? Some of the research guys are serious research guys, like Jamal Allen with the Dallas Cowboys back in the 60s and the 70s. Today, it's like they're gophers. You go for this, go for that. Seriously? my point is, if you think about that, you take it and tie it to what you're saying. There's some organizations that they just don't want to think a lot. They just kind
Right.
of want to stay with the trend and make it look like, oh yeah, we're doing this to save their job. And then there's Andy Reid, right? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that you've got Andy Reid, and what he and Eric Bieniemy created. You've got, to a slightly lesser extent, but still very impressive, what we saw the Eagles do. We just mentioned Josh Allen. There's a handful of really, really fun and inventive and creative offensive minds out there. And
I got the Eagle up. I got the Eagle offense. I got the Eagle offense.
Okay, good. I'd love to take a look at that. There's a few out there.
Seen it.
There's a few out there that really understand how to force defenders to do the things they don't want to do, right? How to make the guys who don't want to tackle, how to make the guys who don't want to run, and how to make the guys who don't want to cover, right? And though the game can be very complex because there's a lot of different things you can do that are very complex, at some point, at the simplest level, you're saying, I want everybody who's bad at something to be forced to do that something, right? So I find that one guy in your secondary who's not good at staying with double moves. I find that one guy in the secondary who maybe he's got a little bit of a hamstring tweak. It doesn't want to have to run deep with guys. I find that linebacker who's good against the run but bad against the pass, or vice versa. I find that your nickel corner who's really good in coverage hates tackling, and make him tackle a running back coming downhill, in the open field. I want to find that guy who doesn't want to do something and make him do that thing. And if you can do that consistently, you will win a lot of football games. And then your whole job as a defensive coordinator is to force the offense to beat you with the thing it doesn't like to do. Are you great at running the ball? I'm going to take that away. Beat me throwing. Are you want to throw it deep? I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to make you, death by 1,000 cuts. I'm going to make you have long, slow drives where maybe somebody gets a holding call, or maybe, something happens where somebody flinches, while you're trying to draw us off sides. Now you're backing up. There's so many things you're trying to get to maneuver into, right? And the best offenses right now build the answer in, right? They have, if this happens, you don't have to think even hardly, right? We already have a package where automatically this converts to that. Oh, they late rotated a safety to the middle of the field, already have an answer for it, right?
It's programming language, if then else.
Right, exactly. And that's what makes Andy Reid, right? That's what makes the best of the best already have that stuff pre-programmed, pre-slotted in, so that you don't have to go, oh, wait, hold on, Dave. I thought it was zone, that kind of thing. You can always spot the teams that are calling those timeouts late when the team makes an adjustment. That means that they didn't have the answer already.
Speaking of which, here is my Eagle offense in the NFL real quick, Bill.
Oh, there we go.
Updated August 3rd, 2021. And I have to give a shout out to Tony Franklin, who wrote the detail. Time you spent on your playbook ideas is a dedication unseen by most. Your love for the game is obvious and makes you a much more committed than any reporter or fan. Good job. Tony Franklin, famed former Cal offensive coordinator, Middle Tennessee State offensive coordinator, air raid offense developer, creator of the Tony Franklin system. And what I'll show you real quick is what it is. I'll just skip the verbiage and get right to the diagramical point. It is here. That's the base formation, and the idea of the Eagle offense, Bill, is to get the ball off within 1.2 seconds. Everything here is about taking advantage of what I call a sweet spot in the defense, where it's just about to deploy and you're ahead of it. And I've watched so many items of tape and now video where you see that the offensive line is in the middle of its block. The defense is getting ready to shed. And at that point, the ball should be gone, right? And I've seen that so many times. I thought, wait a minute, why don't I design an offense that reflects that actually engineers it? And then I saw this video of Stephen Jackson when he was with the Rams, catching a a flat pass, just like here. Okay, see where I'm highlighting this?
Yep, I see it. I'm looking at it already.
He ran 36 yards for a touchdown, and I was mesmerized by the fact that he did. I know I've seen Roger Craig do it a ton of times, but then I thought, wait a minute, what if I designed a play series where this is strictly engineered to do very little other than cause this to happen on a regular basis? And that's the Eagle offense. Also, I've seen a number of people run an asymmetric offense, what we call 4x1 or 3x1, but preferably a 4x1. This is a 4x1, but no one ever actually uses or throws two when it's a four. And if they do, it's almost gimmicky kind of approaches. There's only one coach I saw that came close to actually taking it seriously, and that was John Gruden and then Bill Callahan when they were the Raiders in the early part of the 21st century. That was it. So this is a tribute to this. I gave it to John Gruden because John would always ask me to come up with plays. That goes all the way back to 1998. This is called Eagle Right, H fly, motion belly, one cross fly pass. Now, Eagle Right because this is the Eagle formation, and we have the Eagle side where the four are, and they're very specific lineup. This is the halfback. He's 1 yard from the tackle, and then the fullback is midway between the halfback and the flanker, who in turn is midway between the tackle and the split in out here. And so the split in is out a yard and a half past the numbers. And we ask them at times to cheat a little bit further, but we always want him outside the numbers. If you notice, on both sides of the receivers, the tight end is on the weak side and the split end is on the strong side, and it's different. But we ask them to line up there because it's the football equivalent of what the Golden State Warriors pioneered by putting their guards in the corners and having them ready, to shoot from the corner at a moment's notice. And they'll do that with different players. This keeps the defense honest. You have to be consistently aware of these receivers because the defense doesn't know who we're going to throw to. We do, right? Of course. But we have this, in this way of thinking, in this approach, we have this. And we don't do this all the time, all right? This is our base. And so the idea is you take one step, your pre-snap read is on number one. What you're looking for here is to see if the quarterback is coming up close. And if the quarterback is coming up close, then you think, okay, well, I'm going to throw on timeout here. And then you're also checking to see where the free safety is, because if the free safety is over here, it may want you just kind of forget all this and come back to 3, okay? But what we ask is really the primary receiver is number 2, and we say it's hot. So most of the time, you throw in the number 1 when you are absolutely certain you can get it here. But what we're asking you to do is take the ball and immediately get it to number 2. Why? Because he comes in motion here to a point 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and then just outside the tackle by about 1.5 yards, and then runs a belly, and then the quarterback throws out to him immediately. All right? So if you have someone coming in motion, they have to deal with the fact that the halfback is immediately going to have the ball, and if they don't tackle well in space, it's curtains. We're going to get 5, 6 yards, 7 yards, a first down most of the time, and a touchdown. Our only impediment will be how the cornerback is positioned here with respect to this receiver, if this receiver can get a block. Note, I don't call for that to happen because it's a penalty, right? So, but that's the concept. This is the base concept. And so I took that, and I call it the cross fly pass. The reason why I call it cross fly is because cross fly refers to a concept. The concept is on the right. We have the fullback angle here and then going up, right? We have the flanker, just going really behind the fullback, getting to about a yard past the line of scrimmage here on this angle, and then jetting up fast. Because the idea is that by the time you get here, the quarterbacks decide to throw it to you after the quarterback has gotten the ball. If they decide to throw it, we want it right here in this window.
Yeah, like a seam read concept, like you see
Exactly.
Sean use a lot. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. And if he's not there, it's an alert that he's here. We're not going to ask you to worry about the split in here in this particular instance, because we can actually, in a sense, we can change the order if we want to emphasize this, if the defense is getting away with murder. On the other hand, we're not going to get mad if you throw it here anyway. But we don't want you spending a lot of time with the ball. We want you to get rid of the ball fast. The idea is to get rid of the ball fast before the defense deploys. And a lot of what you're doing is making it an accurate reading pre-snap, because if you know where they're going to be and you know you're going to get rid of the ball immediately, it's already curtains. You can tell immediately when you're going to win and you can predetermine what's going to happen. Now, this is a 71-page book, and so I don't want to go through it entirely. It'd be fun to do it another time. But I have what I call the wing side, and that's the wing side is what I described to you. The halfback 1 yard off the line of scrimmage and 3/4 a yard from the wing side or strong side offensive tackle. The fullback or flanker with a fullback between the flanker and halfback, and I described all that in split in. And I have play design rules, and I said plays are designed where when the quarterback is called to pass, the drop back is at most 2 steps, no further than that. That's it. So we have variations of 0, 1 step, and 2-step passes. And so in the offense, the receiver progression such that the number 2 receiver is actually the primary, and number 1 clears out for number 2. That's the idea. And we have pass patterns that are drawn from the wing side or strong side of combination with each other. And so the reason is that you want to make sure that you're throwing to one receiver so that the other receiver doesn't get in the way, right? So you have these complementary patterns. And so we think of the quarterback as a potential runner. And so we have weak side sweep play and a run pass option. We use motion to set up the halfback, the fullback, or the flanker as ball carriers, depending on play design. And we name our names for players lifted from the Paul Brown playbook that Tom Landry and Bill Walsh borrowed as well. And so we have practice rules. So there's a whole book I'll send to you. I thought I did, but I sent it around. I swear to you, the Raiders used this because I talked to Mike. See how my rules? I have very specific rules. This is what Tony Franklin was talking about. I'm very specific about what each player does at each position for each play. And I write it in. And I got that from actually the Buccaneers playbook was like this under Bruce Arians. But what came out of it was kind of like garbage in, garbage out, but the middle was cool, right? I think my garbage is better. And so here's Eagle right, H fly, motion belly, 2. This is series 2 number series, cross fly pass. No, and here number 3, we're not asking 3 to go in and jet up. We're asking 3 to attack immediately. So if we have somebody that's running a 4-1-40, if we have a Jonathan Ross type, this is the killer. All right, we're gonna punish him with this. And but again, we have the standard rules. The assumption is, hey, you're zeroing in, you're trying to take this away, you're cheating a little bit to the weak side, or what we call the our weak side, and you're leaving the wing side ignored. We're gonna make you pay for it. And so there are a lot of plays here, and I'm very happy with what I came up with. And I think it's been sent around because I saw a lot of teams last year starting to attack the fly and angle and use some of these concepts. So, but that's it, Bill. And that's it. Because I would always give, like in the past, I would give, like John Gruden, I give him one play, right? But I thought, you know what? I'm getting older. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be around. I want at least a representative of how I think about the passing of football, the offensive game. And this is that. And I have other ideas to work off of it. But the idea is the discipline of designing a play with respect to time motion studies. So you're not wasting time. Like, for example, we don't ask in this offense, we don't ask the Bill, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. We don't ask. I'm going to say this real quick and then I'll get out. We notice the weak side tackle. We ask him to attack directly. Okay, like that. All right. No, we don't retreating. The reason for that is we want the alley between the where the quarterback has to throw and where he is to remain open. It's only going to be open for a millisecond anyway. We don't want somebody rushing in there. Okay. Now it's going to happen so fast that generally somebody would have to be down on the line and superhuman to get up to it. Right. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. But folks, we're over time by a little bit. Bill, thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Yeah, some of those concepts remind me of some of the stuff I saw in Gunslinger Archie Cooley's offense in his days at Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah, so tell me about that. Did he use anything that was that quick, or was it?
He did not sometimes. I mean, they went deep also at times too, but a lot of times he used a lot of quad box stuff where he would force you to sort of play honestly, because otherwise we would always be trying to take away Jerry Rice. So he'd have Jerry Rice this side, and then the quad to the other side, and of course everybody would still try to cheat towards Jerry. So to keep him honest, he would throw to the other side sometimes. And if any one of those guys is a halfway decent blocker, you've got some good yardage.
Another impetus for this design was the idea. Note that the tight end is on the weak side, right? So I was thinking about, unfortunately he's in jail, but Aaron Hernandez. Can you imagine that Aaron Hernandez would clean up in this offense? Or Darren Waller is the other person I was thinking about, would clean up in this offense. But I shared it with the Raiders. I gave it to Mike Taylor. He said, well, can I use this on Madden? And I said, I suppose, sure. I don't know that you can design plays like this in Madden, can you?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, from scratch.
Yeah. Yep. It's time consuming, but yes, it can be done.
Okay, cool. I did. Yeah.
So you can. There's like a play. What do they call that? But there's like a play design template or whatever. So you can either import a playbook if it's one that's coded in such a way that can be sucked into the game. Mm-hmm. You can use the preloaded, or you can design one, but it's time consuming.
I wouldn't mind spinning just to see how it operates, right? Because that's I've never seen anybody pay attention. So I was looking at Cal offense under our new offensive coordinator, Jay's his name just flew out of my head, but we're not going to do well. I hope I'm wrong. I hope our defense pulls us through, but the patterns are simple. You don't have the repertoire of short passes that Tony Franklin had when he was at Cal. I understand that he did well, but I'm just concerned that we are using a blocking style that pays little attention to how much the quarterback has to throw based on the pattern, right? So basically the patterns are simple. It's like throw deep or go down here and turn around at the garbage can sort of thing. And I mean, I'm not saying that my patterns are complex. They're not. But there's a concept in how they're put together. I'm not just saying all go. And essentially we're doing that at Cal. So I just, I think this has got a shot.
Right. So you have to use the older versions of Madden. They took it out of some of the more recent ones. But if you are using like Madden 2004, which you can pick up, use for not very much money, that still has the play editor feature where you can design your own plays. So you have to use an older version of Madden, but yes, you can do that.
Yeah, I got to show you this. I can in the morning most with Raiders, NFL Eagle offense, because I saw it on a game and I had to note it. I was like yelling at the screen, "That's it! That's it! That's it! That's it!" And it was the formation. I tried to tell Mark Davis about it. Mark started rolling his eyes for whatever reason. So I thought, well, So where is it? NFL offense play, Eagle offense Play. And sure enough, I can't find it. Oh boy, oh boy. It was here. And oh, wait a minute. I know where it is. Hold on a second. Sorry, Bill. I'm just excited to show this because I was shocked I saw it. And okay, so it's not coming up there. How about Linden Hooker? Okay. Try it this way. YouTube. Almost there, Bill. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. YouTube. Stay with me, Bill. Don't lose. Don't. I'm almost wrapping up here. And oh, here it is. I found it. Yeah, Raiders. You see that? Wait a minute. Let me put this. You can't see it because I haven't put it up here. There it is. Well, that's a commercial, of course. Let me skip the ads. It's only been seen 97 times, unfortunately. Now let me go to where I caught the Raiders using it, and I was explaining the play, right? So they did it versus the Washington football team, and here it is, right? And there it is. There it is, Bill. Take a look. How about that?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can sort of make that out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is what they did. Watch, because I'll just run it. No copyright claim there. All right. And they actually used a variation of the pass I had to the fullback, but they did it with Foster Moreau. All right. And they make the mistake. They don't have a quick throw. They have Carr dropping back. Okay. That's the misgiving here. But the bottom line is that this appeared 5 months after I called Mike Taylor. Excuse me, 4 months after I called Mike Taylor. Yeah, 4 months, same year. Okay. So let me go back and run that. So I'm just so excited that he did that. So I can get this here right about there. And yeah, here we go. Watch. See that? Oh, come on. Anyway, we get like play through here. What the heck? Let me oh, it's a mock draft show. That's another show. Okay. Well, there it is. All right, so let me come back here. Well, Bill, this doesn't seem to want to play. This is funny. I don't know why. No, I think it's very sensitive to my touch. There it is. Okay, now let me put right here. All right, okay, right here. But you see how yeah, there it is. But Bill, you see how it just scatters like that? Watch what happens. Watch this. Watch. Right here. And here's what the hell? Oh man, this is not cool. It put me over the mock draft show. I don't know why that's happening. I have to fix that. But anyway, sorry, Bill. That's weird. That's not supposed to happen. It got cut off there. And I have to go back and fix that. Somehow it went over to something else. Oh, it was a commercial.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah, it went over clearly to it's some sort of glitch. No, it's still mine. It skips ads. It's very weird. Yeah, it's very weird. And then it goes back here. It put up an ad there where I didn't want it to put up, and then it goes back to here. And I'll just show this, and I'll wake up, Bill.
I'm very much awake. I'm just waiting for something to happen.
Oh, right here. See that? but you can see the lineup, right? And that's the formation. That's the formation. With not exactly what I was trying to achieve, but they put Marcus Mariota out there, Bill. They put Mariota way out in the slot where I put the fullback, and then they threw to Moreau down the middle. So my point is they were paying attention, you know, because that's the first time and the only time that year they ran that formation. That was it. So in the words of Dr. Frankenstein, it almost works. Now, if they did it as I told them to do it, I would have said it works because it would have worked right? But they didn't. They had to go put their own little flourishes in it and all that, and all this do this a lot of yada yada stuff and all that stuff, and then say, "Oh, we didn't use Zennies," but they clearly did because I'm watching. Anyway, enough of me. I'll see you backstage, Bill.
No problem.
Thank you for indulging me, everybody. Mad scientist at work here.
Yes, he is. Yes, indeed.
Subscribe to Zennie62 and bookmark OaklandNewsNowBlog.com. That ends this broadcast. Oh, wait. I'm gonna end the broadcast, but